But I want you to think about this because I watched like you did yesterday and something hit me pretty hard. This is the second time the Democratic Party has circumvented democracy and chose.
That's not true.
Yes, it is. Hillary
We've
Clinton
gone through this before.
Hillary Clinton was
There's
chosen,
nothing- hang
and
on.
she.
What's going on, everyone? Jeremy here. It's voting day for me. I'll be voting with 5 other people crammed into my car, including a first-time ever voter who I'll be going to vote for Trump and Hovde here in Wisconsin anyway. But lots of news to cover, including the ridiculous reason Kamala Harris has chosen not to go on to Joe Rogan. And when you see the data behind it, I suppose it'll make a lot of sense. But it is so incredibly embarrassing. It's actually hard to imagine that I can't believe they even put it out. They must be gluttons for punishment. Let's get right into the news. By the way, weekend sale over at my coffee brand coffee company. We've got light roast, dark roast, medium roast, decafs, double calves, flavored coffee. We've got a delicious fall roast selection. We've got a couple of our summers left. Blueberry cobbler, strawberries and cream, cold brew stuff. So much, all site-wide, 15% off. Promo code STAYUP15. Whole bean, ground. Got to try those fall flavors before. They're all limited time. But time to stock up as the election looms upon us. And also shout out to my computer sponsor, the sponsor that delivers all the computers that I use. The computer I use for everything in my business, Meta PCs. Promo code The Quartering. Link also in the description below. They've got fully custom builds, ready to ship PCs, laptops, cases, accessories, and you get a big discount if you use promo code The Quartering. Now, interesting new data. This came out late yesterday and maybe explains why Kamala Harris quit on Joe Rogan. Young men are leaving the Democratic Party. In 2016, 51% of young men identified as at least leaning Democrat. In just 7 years, in 2023, that number dropped to just 39%. Now, does that mean they say they are leaning Republican? I don't know. You know, there are, what's the saying? There are lies, there are damn lies, and then there are statistics. You can't really know if, like, well, they're all Republicans, but I think it's certainly not outside of the realm of reasonable possibilities that at least some of them are. And I think that's because the Democrat Party has become the party of beta males. Dudes don't want to be beta males. Some males are beta-esque, and that's actually no problem. It's fine if you're not like, not alpha, not everyone's like super huge alpha giga Chad. I'm definitely not. Okay. But I don't want to raise my hand and say I'd want to be more of a beta male. Democrats losing young men. The top line says that it highlights President Biden's unpopularity as a key reason Democrats are not connecting with young voters. A New York Times Siena poll shows only 23% of young registered voters view Biden favorably, with 84% believing he is too old to govern effectively. Of course, you see the top line says, while he doesn't foresee a long-term generational alignment, there are concerning signs for Democrats. A recent survey shows that just 47% of Americans identify as Republican and just 46 identify as Democrat. Based. Look, this is really easy to explain. Somehow, I don't know, somehow between when I was in my 20s and now that I'm 40, the Democrats used to be the party of free speech, anti-censorship, anti-big government, anti-big pharma, and suddenly they not only stopped being anti those things, they became pro those things, and thus all the things that attracted to them as me too, being liberal in my teens, 18, 19, 20, are now identified as being Republican. It's so simple, even a dumb Midwestern guy can see why this has happened. It's not that young men are suddenly wanting to be more like Christian conservative. It's that the Republicans became the rebels and the Democrats just handed it to them. I don't know any other way to describe it. Donald Trump is an anti-hero. And the Democrats dorked out over the last 12, 16 years. And dudes don't want to be associated with that. And by the way, quietly, most women also don't. You know, if you take the pro-choice discussion off the table, you know, women don't want to date guys like Tim Walz. Okay. And you see this in an article says, ex-Obama aide explains why Kamala Harris is losing Gen Z men to Trump. Well, it's because she's a dork. You know, she's a dork. She's unlikable. She's authoritarian. She's anti-free speech. She's pro-censorship. She's pro-big pharma. These are all things that young men and young women don't want any part of. Who do you think listens to Joe Rogan's show? You know? You see, meet them where they are, like Rogan. Democrats need to reach out to Gen Z men through the platforms where they consume their news already. And that's not CNN, and it's not necessarily Pod Save America, Pfeffer stressed. Reports suggest that Trump will sit down with the biggest name in podcasting today, Joe Rogan, the host of the Joe Rogan Experience, the #1 podcast in the United States, in his Austin, Texas studio. Harris herself may not be far behind. Nope, she has now said she won't. Young men still like Trump. Trump has a sizable advantage when it comes to young male electorate. When Biden was the Democratic nominee, men ages 18 to 29 preferred Trump by an average of 11 points. After Harris became the nominee, young men in swing states per Siena now favor him by 13 points. I mean, I love Gen Z. They're young leaders. They're so clear-eyed, Harris said in a campaign event earlier this week. Gen Z hates you. Gen Z does not like you. You're a crap. And by the way, Gen Z, probably, you know, with each generation, detecting phonies has gotten easier and easier to do. They know she's phony. They know she's phony. So they don't like her. That's why Trump, you could call him dorky or whatever, and he's got some goofball moments. And he says some goofball things. And then also there are times where he says some like things I just outright disagree with. But at least the guy is who he is, and he's unapologetic about it, just like Joe Rogan. And now the Kamala Harris is in damage control, as all the left-wing media is now turning on her for not going on Joe Rogan because they feel abandoned. Look what happened yesterday when the LA Times wouldn't endorse Kamala Harris. Their readers turned on them. Vice President Harris will not be appearing on Joe Rogan's podcast. And by the way, in classic Kamala nomenon way, she didn't say it. She sent one of her little lemmings out to do it. We talked with Rogan and his team about the podcast. Unfortunately, it isn't going to work out right now because of, quote, scheduling of this period of the campaign. Didn't Kamala Harris take the day off yesterday and the day before? Yes, she did. Now, she did do that town hall, but she took the day off preparing for that. She's taken several days off, which, by the way, Trump hasn't done, even though Kamala Harris trotted out that he's, quote unquote, exhausted, which fell flat because, quite frankly, of course he is. I'm in my 40s and I would be exhausted. That man's in his 70s. He's doing multiple rallies a day, podcast appearances, everything. He's doing twice the work that Kamala Harris is. Sam's added that Harris is still appearing on other popular mediums, like tomorrow on former NFL tight ends Shannon Sharpe podcast, Club Shay Shay. Harris also appeared on Call Her Daddy. She's happy to go to these places and share her message. So she's left going on Joe Rogan's podcast, which is 10 times bigger than Shannon Sharpe's. Shannon Sharpe's audience is obviously far more African American. She's literally desperately trying to appeal to black voters. If you're 2 weeks out from the election with millions of votes already cast, you said you're black and you still are desperately trying to recruit black people to want to vote for you, you're cooked, lady. You're cooked. Listen to this guy.
Can I ask you about Rogan? Was there a Rogan invite to the vice president that was turned down? Is it something you would consider doing, given the size of that audience, and given that a lot of the folks that Trump seems to be targeting might be listening to that?
Well, yeah, I think that the vice president's happy to go anywhere and any place to talk to a broad segment of the country. We talked with Rogan and his team about the podcast. Unfortunately, it isn't going to work out right now.
What does that
mean? Because of the scheduling of this period of the campaign.
Scheduling? You won't make time? You won't make time to go on the world's biggest podcast? I don't believe you. She knows that Joe Rogan doesn't like her. She knows that Joe Rogan fans don't like her. And she knows she is completely incapable of sitting down for a 3-hour unscripted conversation. Now, will Trump talk for 3 hours? Boy, if they let him, he probably would. I'm going to guess the Trump podcast will be closer to an hour, hour and a half. I would be absolutely shocked if it was 2-3 hours. I would be shocked in a good way because I really hope that he releases it today. And look at this. After now this lily-livered, limp-wristed excuse with rounding the way that Polymarket has it, Donald Trump now leads by 32. 34% betting that Kamala Harris will win the election with 66%. Again, it means nothing. Every time I talk about this, I remind you, go out and vote. I literally recruited my family, infrequent voters, and I'm like, let's all hang out today, 2 o'clock, let's vote. And that's what I'm doing. I filled up my car. And I'll do it again and again and again until the election. With everybody I know. That's what it's going to take to get Trump to win. I want Trump to win the popular vote, by the way. I don't want him to just win the Electoral College. So if you're in California, you're in Texas, you're in Florida, you feel like, our fate's sealed. No, go vote. Vote like he's down 10 points. Vote like the popular vote is how they decide the election. Even if you look at Predict It, which was, showed Kamala Harris up by double digits for, an enormous amount of time. An enormous amount of time. Even just a few, if we go back to a week ago, it was Trump 55, Harris 48. Now it's Trump 58, Harris 47. The momentum is swinging to Donald Trump with just 2 weeks before the election, but that doesn't mean anything. We need to vote. Vote, 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 vote. Fight, fight, fight. Vote, vote, vote. I know it's cringe, but it's real. It's true. And now the mainstream media is pissed because she's not going. She's not going because she's afraid. She's not going because she can't have a teleprompter. And she thinks Shannon Sharpe, who's already publicly endorsed her, will be more forgiving. What an absolute coward. She is non-presidential. It's Friday. Early voting is basically underway in every state. Go vote now. Swamp the vote. And if you need help staying up this election week, promo code STAYUP15 on Coffee Brand Coffee this weekend only. Stock up. I know it's going to be, we're going to have a big election night show, but we're probably not going to get the election called on election night. So we're going to go as long as we can. And I know I'll be drinking tons of Coffee Brand Coffee. And don't forget Meta PCs. When you're in the market for a computer, link will be in the description below. Promo code TheQuartering to save. Hope you enjoyed this video. We'll talk to you again real soon.